It's strange attending your own funeral. Even stranger when your family is the one who planned it. That's the thought that echoed in my mind as I lined my lips with a deep crimson, the same shade my mother used to call too loud. Stared at myself in the mirror, holding my own gaze like I was daring the ghost in the reflection to flinch first. They told everyone I was dead. Not metaphorically, not in the cutoff, and we don't talk about her kind of way. Mean it literally. They announced my death, held a gathering, even had a slideshow, and I wasn't invited. For the last 12 years, I've lived in the shadows, quiet, far away, invisible. I built a life, a damn good one. But no matter how far I ran, I could still hear their silence chasing me. It wasn't until last week that I knew the full extent of their lie. A friend from childhood sent me a message out of nowhere. "Wait, aren't you dead?" At first, I laughed. Then I saw the Facebook post, a family photo. My sister's smile, my parents standing proud behind her, and a comment beneath it. "We miss her every day. She would have been 33 this year. They killed me in words, buried me in lies. But now I'm back and they have no idea what's coming." I clipped on my earrings, smoothed the fabric of my black dress, and stood tall. Today, the family gathers again for joy, for celebration, for the perfect picture. I'll be in it. The ghost they tried to erase is about to knock on the front door. Some people grow up with warmth in their homes. Casseroles on Sunday's bedtime stories, a mother's soft hands brushing the hair from their face. I didn't. In my house, love came with conditions. Approval was currency, and I was always bankrupt. My mother believed in discipline, not affection. She measured worth by silence and obedience. I failed both. My father, he was a ghost even when he was in the room. Always present, never there. And then there was her, my sister, golden child. Perfect grades, perfect hair, perfect lies. I was the opposite of everything they wanted. I asked questions. I spoke up when things felt wrong. I didn't smile when I didn't mean it. To them, that made me rebellious. Disrespectful. Shameful. They called me ungrateful for wanting to be heard, unstable for having feelings, unlovable for being me. By 16, I learned that silence wasn't just survival. It was expectation, but even then I still believed maybe one day they'd see me. And then I met Eli. He was kind, gentle, funny in the way that didn't ask for anything in return. He came from a world completely different from ours. Different background, different upbringing, different everything. But he made me feel seen, valued, alive. When my mother found out, she didn't scream. That would have been too human. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're not one of us anymore." Then came the ultimatum. Choose us or him. I asked them if I could choose myself. That was the final betrayal. On my 18th birthday, I was given a gift. A black trash bag with my clothes, a bus ticket to nowhere, and a goodbye that never came. No hugs, no tears, just the sound of the front door closing and not locking behind me. I remember sitting at the edge of the street, holding that garbage bag, wondering if I really existed to them at all. No one chased me. No one called. Not then. Not ever. I wasn't just unwanted. I was erased. But what they didn't know was that the girl they threw away would grow into the woman they'd one day regret creating. It had been almost a decade since I last heard their voices, and I was okay with that. No birthdays, no holidays, no guilt. Tripping phone calls, pretending the past didn't happen. I had made peace with the silence until it spoke again. It was a Tuesday afternoon ordinary. I was sipping coffee in my apartment when a Facebook notification pinged. A name from the past. A girl I hadn't seen since high school. The message was short, almost hesitant. "Hey, is this really you? I thought you were dead." My hands froze. I reread the message 3 times. Dead, I thought maybe it was a joke, a mistake, a case of confused identity. So I replied cautiously, "Yeah, it's me. Why would you think that?" Her response came quickly. She said, "My parents told everyone I died in a car accident shortly after I left home. They even spoke about it at a church gathering a few years back. My mother, the same woman who couldn't look me in the eye when she kicked me out, had stood in front of a room full of people choking back tears as she gave a testimony about losing her daughter to the dangers of rebellion. Sometimes, when you turn away from family, the world punishes you. She cried for the daughter she killed with her own words. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. There was no accident, no obituary, no grave. Just a lie wrapped in sanctimony, presented as truth. I asked my old friend if she had any photos or proof. She sent me a picture someone posted from that church event. There was a slideshow, a table of candles, a framed photo of me at 16. The one where I still had braces and hope in my eyes. They didn't just cut me off. They didn't just pretend I never existed. They declared me dead to friends, to family, to God himself. Apparently, they buried me in front of witnesses, and no one questioned it. No one came looking. Not one person wondered if the story was too neat, too clean, too convenient. I wasn't missing. I wasn't dead. I was simply inconvenient. So they wrote me out of the story like I was a bad chapter they didn't want to remember. But here's the thing about ghosts. They don't stay buried forever. After the lie, I disappeared. Not out of shame, out of survival. They wanted me dead. Fine. I let the old version of me die. But the woman I became, she was born in fire. For years, I kept my head down and my heart guarded. No help, no handouts, no family. I worked 3 jobs. Diner waitress by morning bookstore, cashier by night, and scrubbing offices in between. I slept in borrowed rooms, survived on instant noodles and ambition. But with every shift, every dollar saved, every exam passed with bloodshot eyes and blistered fingers. I came back to one sentence. They said I was dead. And that sentence, it became fuel. I put myself through school, graduated with honors, turned a freelance design gig into a 6F figure interior design business. Clients trusted me with their homes because I had built mine from nothing. No safety net, no congratulations, just grit scars and an unshakable promise to myself. If I ever come back, it won't be to beg. It'll be to show them what they lost. For a while, that was enough. Success filled the silence they left behind. But then the silence started whispering again. It was another old friend, this time a mutual acquaintance who had stayed close with the family. She texted me a link. Family Facebook page. There it was, my parents grinning ear to ear beneath a banner that read, 40th anniversary celebration. All family welcome. All family except me. There were dozens of comments. Dozens of photos. People reminiscing about the good old days, tagging my sister, mentioning cousins, aunts, uncles, and not one mention of me. Not a shadow, not a whisper, not even a lie. They hadn't just killed me off, they had rewritten the story as if I was never born. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I closed the laptop and stood up. You wanted me gone so badly. Fine. But if you're going to pretend I'm a ghost, then I'll give you a haunting you'll never forget. It was time. Time to return. Not to ask for love, but to deliver the truth face to face. The day was bright. Too bright almost. One of those picture-perfect afternoons where everything looks calm. Right before a storm hits. The house hadn't changed. Same white fence, same rose bushes, same cold feeling in my chest the moment I stepped out of the car. Laughter spilled from the open patio. Champagne glasses clinked. Old hymns played softly through the speakers. Relatives I hadn't seen in over a decade stood shoulder to shoulder, sharing memories I was never part of. They looked so happy, so proud, so certain that the past had stayed buried. But not for long. I didn't knock. I didn't need to. I walked through the gate slowly, calmly, heels clicking like a metronome counting down the seconds to impact. A few people glanced my way with polite, confused smiles. They didn't recognize me. Not yet. Not until Aunt Ruth dropped her glass. The shatter was sharp. Instant silence followed. All heads turned, and then I saw her, my sister, She froze mid-laugh, mouth still curved in a smile that didn't know it was about to die. Her eyes locked onto mine like she was seeing a ghost, because to her, that's exactly what I was. "Is this some kind of sick joke?" she said, her voice just loud enough to tremble. I took one more step forward, lifted my chin, met her fear with fire. "No joke," I said. "I'm very much alive." No one spoke. No one moved. Even the music stopped. Or maybe someone shut it off. I'll never know. All I remember is the weight in the air, thick with guilt and confusion. I looked around the crowd, old family friends, distant cousins, people who had prayed for my soul at a memorial that never should have happened. Some of them had tears in their eyes. Others looked away. And then there were my parents, standing by the cake table, pale as stone. My father gripped the edge of the table like he might fall. My mother. She reached for her necklace, the cross she always clutched when she lied. I took another step. "You can relax. I didn't come to ruin your little party. I just came to remind you. You can't bury someone who isn't dead." The silence cracked, and underneath it, the truth began to rise. I stood in the center of their perfect celebration, surrounded by people who once wept for me, like I was gone. The dead girl now standing in full color. I reached into my bag and pulled out a manila folder. Old school, intentional, nothing digital. This moment needed paper, something they could touch and not deny. "Before you tell more lies to cover the last ones," I said, my voice steady. "Let's clear the air." I opened the folder and held up the first page, a printed obituary. There it was. My name in bold, my birth date. A fake date of death and a short, sanitized paragraph about how she left us too soon and found peace after a troubled time. Gasps echoed around the room. Someone whispered a prayer. My mother looked like she might faint. Someone took the time to write this about me, to print it, to hand it out at church like a flyer for grief. I flipped to the next page. Photos dumb, holding my first apartment keys, wearing a graduation cap, cutting the ribbon on my design studio passport stamps, business licenses, utility bills, proof of life. Year after year you buried me in rumor, but while you wept over a lie, I was building a life. I turned to face my sister. She hadn't moved. Her eyes were wide, fingers clenched tight around a champagne flute. "And you," I said coldly, "you sold my things." Her lips parted, but nothing came out. "I know you cleaned out my room, claimed I left nothing behind. You took my grandmother's ring, the one meant for me, and wore it like it was yours. You didn't just steal my things. You stole my story, my silence, my name." She tried to speak, to explain, but there was no room left for excuses, not with the truth spread across the room like broken glass. I turned slowly, locking eyes with each person. All of you stood by. You listened to the lies, repeated them, believed them because it was easier than asking what really happened. You lied to bury me. But now the dead speak. The room fractured. Some people cried, others stormed out. My aunt shouted something about forgiveness, while my cousin started pacing, furious that no one ever told him the truth. Voices overlapped, panic, guilt, confusion. The careful mask this family wore for years was shattering in real time. And me, I just stood there, calm, alive, unapologetic, letting the fire burn. I didn't need to stay for the fallout. I had said what needed to be said. Dropped truth like a match into a room soaked in gasoline. Now it burned not with rage, but with reckoning. As I turned to leave, no one dared stop me. The same people who once whispered about my troubled spirit now stood speechless in the wreckage of their own lies. I walked out as silently as I had walked in, but this time I wasn't running. I was rising. Behind me, I heard footsteps, soft, hesitant. A few cousins, younger, wide-eyed, followed me to the driveway. "I'm sorry," one of them said barely above a whisper. We didn't know. I nodded, not out of forgiveness, but out of recognition. Not everyone had sharpened the knives. Some just stood by while I bled. And then a child's voice. I turned to see a little girl, no more than 8, clinging to her mother's dress. She looked at me like I was a warrior from a storybook. Not dead, not broken, just brave. She didn't say a word, but her eyes said everything. And as I stepped into my car, I looked at the house one last time. They thought cutting me off was the end. But what they buried grew back stronger. It's been 6 months. The party is a memory now, faded but not forgotten. The whispers still ripple through the family, but I don't care because for the first time I'm the one telling the story. I wrote everything down, shared it in a podcast. My words, my truth, my voice finally heard, and something strange happened. People listened. Strangers reached out. Other ghosts, daughters, sons, siblings who'd been buried by bloodlines and betrayal. I'm no longer the ghost they created. I'm the storm they didn't see coming. And I'm not done because truth doesn't die when it's ignored. It grows louder, brighter, unstoppable. The final shot. Me standing on my balcony at sunrise. The wind is in my hair, my hands on the railing, and the city breathing below. No shadows, no silence, just me alive and seen.